we can give you the weaponry that you need to wage war and help you muster the courage to fight. I'm Randall Terry. This is Voice of Resistance.
Those who forsake the law praise the wicked. Those who uphold the law resist them. Welcome to the Voice of Resistance. Here's your host, Randall Terry.
Welcome to the program, friend. I have decided to revive an ancient personal tradition. All right, it's not that ancient, but it is a personal tradition with me. Going back about a quarter of a century, I've been broadcasting on radio and television for the better part of 25 years. And when I first started broadcasting, I decided that I was going to use the programs that I had at my disposal, and when I was a guest on other people's shows, whether it was Oprah Winfrey or Donahue or being interviewed by Dan Rather, whatever, that I would use my time in front of a camera, in front of a microphone, or when interviewed by the New York Times or the Rolling Stone, that I would use my time to equip and to motivate and to train a fresh generation of culture warriors. It's time that I start doing that again, deliberately, consistently on this show. So I'm letting you know that I am going to do everything in my power to equip your brain, your tongue, with the weaponry that you will need, the philosophical, political, cultural, biblical, theological weaponry that you will need to fight for what is right and just, and to hopefully help deploy you, to encourage you, to help you muster the courage to fight, and give you the permission that you need. Give you the permission that you need to fight. Why, Randall? What is this sudden thing? I'll tell you why. ISIS, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, child killing. We are on the precipice as a nation. We're in great danger as a nation. And this election, 2016, sadly, is probably the most important one in my lifetime. Probably, all right? And I hope that you can see why. If President Obama gets to continue his godless agenda through his surrogate named Hillary, then we'll never recover, friends. It may be too late now. We might not be able to recover now. If you look at the ethical horizon and where the key fields of battle are, we might not be able to pull this out. But if Hillary gets elected, it could be really bad. And I think that Donald Trump has the chutzpah and the intelligence to do everything in his power as president to break the back of ISIS, okay? And to clearly and accurately identify Islamic terrorism. And he's even had the guts to say that there's something inherent in Islam that is a threat to all of us. Not to mention child killing. He says clearly that he wants to make it a crime to kill babies. That's been my number one activist calling for my whole adult life. So I'm in. I'm all in. But it's not just about me at this point. It's about you. It's about you. The American Revolution could never have happened if it was just George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and Patrick Henry. There were people who've picked up their squirrel muskets and killed. I'm not asking you to pick up a musket and kill, but I'm telling you, it took courage. It took valor. It took people feeding the American troops food. Chicken, here, have my hog, slaughter my hog. It took people risking their lives to get messages, the committees of correspondence. It was a massive effort, and guess what? Only 1/3 of the American people ever really wanted to separate from England. Only 1/3. They were never a majority. They were not a majority who wanted to separate from England. They were not a majority who were killing their fellow Englishmen. They were not in a majority who were breaking the law, but they won. And now we get to enjoy the fruit of their labor and their courage. We are living in the squandered remains, the squandered crumbs, scraps, of their courage and their efforts and their establishment of a nation based upon the God-given rights of life, liberty, property. They're all being squandered. They're all being wasted. Well, we choke on bread and circuses. So part of my mission is to help you to be a force. And it could be a force with your immediate family and your extended family. It could be a force with your church community. It could be a force with your neighborhood. It could be a force with your whole community, your whole city. I want to make you a force. Before I do, I have to tell you who the opposition is, and then let's get to work. The opposition, it's going to make you sad. If you own a business and would like to advertise on our program, please contact us. We are currently seen on over 130 television stations from coast to coast. We air at 8 p.m. Eastern, and then all times are local. We have a lot of reach, friend, and this is an opportunity at a great price for you to get your product or your service in front of hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people. Also, if there's something that's important to you and you'd like to have a month where you just say thank you to this ministry or promote a certain ministry or a certain cause, contact us. Our rates are incredibly affordable. You'd be surprised. And you, again, can reach into hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of homes. We're currently seen possibly in over 30 million homes. So give us a call, give us an email, and we'll put a commercial up for you. In the fear of God, I want you to understand who the greatest impediment to righteous revolution, a true change in America is. This is my opinion, but it's a studied opinion, and I think it's borne out in the record of biblical stories that we see. I think that the greatest single impediment to change, to righteous change in this country, it's not the Democratic Party. It's not the Republican Party. It's the American clergy. It's the American clergy. Evangelical, mainline Protestant, Roman Catholic. And the reason that they are this impediment, it's like a shepherd being in bed with the wolf, helping to devour the sheep. Most of this fault, most of this impediment, this wall that the clergy have erected, has to do with two elements. One is what they fail to say and do, the sins of omission. And two is the disemboweling of courage that they effect on young men and women, especially young men and middle-aged men. Let's look at the second one first. If you get a young man who's full of fire, like in the scriptures, you have the story of Jehu, the son of Nimshi, that rideth furiously. God anointed him, literally, anointed him to destroy the house of Ahab and Jezebel. King David was anointed to be king, to take away the kingdom from the house of Saul. And when clergy have a young Jehu or a young David or any number of warriors that you find in the scriptures, so often in America, and by the way, I admit from the beginning this is broad brush and that there are exceptions. So if you are blessed to have an exceptional pastor, an exceptional priest, an exceptional preacher, an exceptional elder, then thank God, praise Jesus, and learn from that person, seek their counsel. But it's an exception. You need to know that. It's an exception. So to broad brush this, when a Jehu shows up and says, God showed me I'm supposed to take out Ahab and Jezebel, the surgeon takes out the knife. It's not a good surgeon. This clergyman starts to cut away the courage, quoting Bible verses. Well, we're supposed to love our neighbor. Blessed are the peacemakers. You know, Jesus said, don't judge. See, someone will come along and say, we've got to stop Hillary. We've got to make marriage between a man and a woman. Islam is a threat to our freedoms. The blood of babies is crying from the ground. And clergy have gone through seminary, many of them have gone through seminary, and they have been taught that this type of disruptive anger is counterproductive, that it won't help them build a big church. They've been taught that they should be trying to make people comfortable. Literally, that's what they're taught. Now, they might not say, make them comfortable. No. But they're taught to not make them uncomfortable, that disruptive people are divisive, and they're taught that divisiveness is a great problem. And so that when it's that young man or that young woman comes up, or somebody who's in their 30s or 40s, 50s, and has this crisis of conscience, most American clergy will pull out their Bible and misuse it and abuse their authority to convince this would-be David, this would-be Jehu, this would-be Gideon, that it's not the will of God for them to fight. That is the sin. Now, if you're watching this, I want you to think right now, if you've ever approached your pastor, your clergyman, with any number of issues, true life and death issues that we're facing, what's been his response? Did he encourage you to fight? Follow your conscience? Do everything you can? Make the biggest fuss you can? Fight? Or did he say, well, and then start making up excuses? I've got to take this call. I'll be right back. We'll talk more about who the problems are. Yes, it's Randall. Friend, this program is supported by friends like you who believe in what we are doing. We run a very tight ship. Thankfully, we are on over 130 stations across the country, having tremendous impact. We get emails every day. We get letters in the mail, not every day, but almost every day. We hear from people who love what we're doing. What people don't understand is that it's sort of expensive to produce a television show like this. It doesn't require earth-shattering funds, but it does require financial help. So I am asking you, if you enjoy this program, throw us a $10 or a $20 bill every once in a while, or even a $50 or a $100 check. You see the address there on the screen. Your gifts are not tax deductible, by the way, because we want to be able to say what we want to say regarding politics without the IRS telling us no. So if you like the program, I ask for your support. We are long past the place, technologically, where anyone can have an excuse to not read their Bible and to study it thematically, to study it by theme or by subject. When I was a young man, when I went to Bible college, when I pored literally for hours at a time over the scriptures, I had my Strong's Concordance and my Dixon Annotated Reference Bible. That's what I had. And I would look up the word redemption and just go through it. Every single passage in the Bible of redemption, and read through, flip through, and study it. Now we have computers, our godless devices, and you can put in a search engine and just literally bring up every single place in the scripture. So I want you to study the word shepherd. I want you to read the book of Jeremiah, the prophetic book, the prophet Jeremiah, and read, and just you use one of those search engines to look up the words prophet and priest. And what you'll see is that from the prophet and priest, iniquity has gone forth. Look through the prophetic books in the Bible and look for the passages that talk about the treachery of the priests, the clergy of that day, who did not inspire the people to fight for what was right. If you look at the corruption that happened in Israel, the priests were part and parcel to it. The priests in the temple knew that there were sacrifices being made to false gods. They knew that there were homosexual prostitution booths at Solomon's temple. And the priests didn't fight it. And then God destroyed Jerusalem and God destroyed the temple. So there was a price to be paid. The payday didn't come right away, but it came. So you look and see. So it brings me to the second point. I'm talking about where the enemies are, the adversaries. One of the ways that the clergy have been such an impediment is they carve the courage out of people to fight, carve the will out of them. And then they shun them and make it so that, well, brother so-and-so or sister so-and-so, they're really, well, they're causing problems. They're working through some issues. And they cast that aspersion over someone so they can't go to their friends in the church and get them to fight with them. I know. I was in a church years ago where this individual Protestant pastor blessed my work and gave everyone in the congregation permission to work with me. And our congregation became a beehive of righteous activism. Changed the course of America. Operation Rescue was born in my heart, founded by me, but there was a core of people around me who all went to the same church because the pastor gave permission to me to do what I was doing and permission to the people in the church and affirmed me from the pulpit and affirmed our activities from the pulpit. And when people would come up to him and say, why are you letting them do that? He would say, they're doing the right thing. And it shut down opposition in the church and it gave us a strength in the community. And then I saw people in other churches whose pastor wouldn't support them and they were like crazy lone wolves. I shouldn't use that phrase. They were crazy all by themselves in their congregation and just really couldn't get much going on because of the pastor. So the other way is more subtle than carving the guts out of someone. It's what they don't say and what they don't do. When is the last time you heard a really fiery sermon on the murder of innocent babies and the duty of Christians to save those babies from death? When's the last time? When's the last time you heard a sermon about homosexual marriage, so-called? When's the last time you heard a pastor explain that Islam is not the same God, the God of Islam is a corrupt, heretical perversion of the God of the Old and New Testaments? When's the last time you heard your pastor say that Muhammad was a false prophet? When's the last time you heard your pastor speak on things and then lead by example in the fight? Say, we've got to be involved in the political election this year. We've got to have voter guides. We've got to have voter registration. It's the neglect. It's pastors leading by example towards comfort, towards irrelevance, towards a spiritual patty cake club. That is a part of what is destroying this country. I've got to take a break. When we come back, we'll start the process. Start the process with the goal. I'm going to tell you some of the goals. Mobilizing people to defeat Hillary Clinton in November. All right? That's the goal. And to talk about our Second Amendment right to self-defense. We'll start there. Don't go away. I want to invite you to go to our website. Almost every book that I have ever written is available as a PDF online for free. We have a ton of products, training materials, tools that are available for you for free. All we ask for is that you give us your email address. That's it, so that we can stay in touch with you and, yes, from time to time, ask you to support this work. So I'm inviting you, go to the website. Now, for those of you who say, well, I don't want a PDF, I want a real book. You can get one of my books. All you have to do is pay for shipping and handling and then give whatever gift you want. And if you can't afford anything, we'll send you the book for free. Just pay shipping and handling. Why are we doing all this? Because we want to change the direction of the country and we need to raise up a fresh generation of warriors to do that. That's why we have this tool. I invite you, go to the website, see for yourself. let's talk about guns. The debate was actually settled. We had this debate. We killed our fellow countrymen to settle the debate. Killed people, ambushed and killed British soldiers. The American Revolutionary Fighting Forces. You forget the shot heard around the world was the British troops going first to Lexington, then to Concord for two objectives. One was to find Samuel Adams and John Hancock, and the other was to get the gunpowder up in Concord. They were going to the munitions battery. They wanted to get the gunpowder, the bullets, any guns that they could get. They wanted to disarm the Americans. If they had been successful, if they had been able to disarm us, we would still be one of the British colonies. We would have some status like the Dominions, like Australia or Canada, whatever, but we wouldn't be what we are. Would absolutely not be who and what we are as a people, or what we used to be, the good side of America. So we settled this debate, friend. But for those of you who need and want biblical, by the way, for those of you who are Roman Catholic, go to the canons of the church. Self-defense is a right, okay? For those of you looking for biblical justification, when Lot was kidnapped by Chedorlaomer, the pagan, what happened? Abraham went after him with 318, say it with me, armed men. 318 armed men. They all had weapons, every one of them. Now, I want you to think about that. Abraham was the father of the faithful. Some people call him the father of the faith, okay? Friend of God, justified by faith. All right? Abraham is a key, central, individual, historical, true figure in the Old Testament and in the New. He had the prudence as a friend of God to make sure that all 318 of his men had their own weapon. Do you know how hard it was back then to forge a sword? How expensive it would have been? And it wasn't just, well, yeah, we got 6 or 8 of them. You know, someone run to the sword case. Grab the 6 swords we have. Does anyone know where the swords are? Everyone, every single one of his men had a sword. And with that sword, they were able to, what? Rescue Lot. But I'll go a step further. If you look at the kingdom of Israel during the time of Saul, before David, the Philistines had disarmed them. Yeah. The scripture says that they would actually have to go to the Philistines with their plows and their axes to have the Philistines sharpen them. They not only took their swords away from the Jews, they took away the ability to make them. So when the Jews fought the Philistines, Jonathan and his dad Saul had a sword. No one else did. Disarming a people is what enables tyrants to enslave the people. God save us from bread and circuses. Have you ever heard of the Armenian Christian massacre? The Muslims of Turkey killed over 1 million Christians around 100 years ago. In the 1900s this happened, people. Killed them. The first thing they did was they disarmed them. They took away their ability to have self-defense. And then they drove them like sheep of forced mobilization where they just died along the way. Some people say over 1 million Christians died. It was a forced march with the goal of genocide, okay? It's where the phrase genocide began, was with killing Armenian Christians, and the first step was to disarm them. So, if you're looking for the Bible, go to Abraham, go to David. Even Jesus said, you know, if you don't have a sword, get one. And then the disciple says, we have 2 here. They carried swords with them. Think about it. Our Lord and his apostles carried swords. Now, I've got to continue with this. Have a great weekend. On Monday, we'll talk about, listen to me, Hillary Clinton. You may say, oh, I don't trust Trump. I'm not sure about Trump. Listen, you can trust that Hillary is going to do everything in her power, like she said in Texas a few days ago, to have more dead babies. And if you would let a woman like that get elected, then the blood will be on your hands as well. You're not going to do that. That's why you watch the show. You need to take that phrase and you need to use it with your Christian brothers and sisters who are thinking, well, maybe not Trump, maybe I will vote for Hillary. Just say to them, do you want the blood of babies on your hands when you face God?